people move on, people make artistic changes in their music and their lives, and that's how it should be. That's what art is about. It's not a scene, it's not a Gothic scene, it's not a, wow, did you see the dress she was wearing last night? And, oh my God, I wish I could get my makeup to look that way. It's like, well, great, I like getting dressed up too, but that's not all that's behind it.
Right.
It's like, listen to the fucking music.
Radio Arcane.
Dark, eclectic music.
Welcome to Radio Arcane, the podcast numero 5. Bad blood, Christian death,
Rozz versus Valor. Yes.
I'm Brian Drabant.
I'm Motuvius Rex.
I'm sorry, Vomit.
I'm Gothic Bastard.
Kaleidoscope.
I'm here.
That was ultimate Christian Death fan Randy.
Yes.
Yes.
He knows the stuff.
You do.
Hello.
So what were we just listening to there?
That was Christian Death, Cavity, First Communion, first song off of their first album.
Aren't almost all the songs going to be Christian Death?
They are.
Oh my God.
But we should maybe say
It's a revelation.
Christian Death 1, Christian Death 2,
First
Christian
incarnation.
Death 3. Yeah.
The best of.
Which version? So, yes. Tonight's episode is Bad Blood. Rozz versus Valor. Yes.
Bad fucking blood.
Because it's true, the only good thing about Bad Blood is letting it slide.
Hey.
Wait a second. Are we recording?
Yeah, we're here to kind of talk about the bad blood, as it were, between Rozz and Valor.
Yes, the unfortunate rift when at one point they probably made some of the most original, interesting music of the time period. I mean, they were an art rock band almost, you know. I mean, nobody was calling it Gothic at the time in America that I remember. Even their first album, I heard death rock mentioned, but Catastrophe Ballet and Ashes period where Rozz and Valor were actually together, definitely pretty experimental and weird and great.
Weird's good.
Yeah. So that first song, though, was off of their first album, which was a totally different band. It was Rick Agnew and George Ballinger.
I don't remember all the members.
Yeah.
I remember the artwork or the photos.
James
Lipton.
McGearty. I don't know how to say his last name. James McGearty? Is it McGearty?
McGarty?
McGearty?
McGurty.
I always thought he looked cool on the back of the album, the bass player. I honestly, people always overlook the awesomeness of the bass player, but the bass on that first album is really cool. It's groovy. I like James McGearty. I wish that they had done more music. They made one great album, and that was it.
They're probably all 17.
Well, I think, okay, so Only Theater Pain came out in 82. Rozz is only...
He
would have been about 3 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
He's not. He would have been about
17.
From my understanding, the first band pretty much kind of fell apart due to substance abuse, personal issues, whatever. They just kind of drifted apart. Pompeii '99.
Egos?
Well, no, I don't think. I mean, from what I've seen with interviews with Rick Agnew, I don't think it was egos at all. I think it was just irresponsibility, not really overly attentive. I'm speculating as a fan, only going on what I have ever read. But
Rozz
Brandon,
or,
give any input on that?
No.
Rozz sort of seems in interviews sometimes to be kind of wishy-washy. You know, not like a ton of... maybe periods of high ambition, then kind of like, fuck it, I'm gonna go to hibernation.
yeah, he
whatever.
seemed
Almost like a-
right, and I don't want to belittle that. I mean, I can't diagnose, but
a hot cold.
Dr. Rex?
A hot cold.
well, he definitely was hot cold, and
Yeah.
I mean, and that's just me from a perspective of not knowing him whatsoever,
Right.
just viewing him
What it appears.
from the audience,
Right.
looking at his artwork. It looked like that he was really into stuff, and then he just flaked out. The way they started was Pompeii '99 was on tour with the original Christian Death.
And Pompeii 99 was who?
Pompeii '99 was
Valor.
David Glass and Jeton Damone
No.
and Valor.
Yeah.
And I think they had another member or two, actually, that
Yeah.
did not carry on into Christian Death.
Which they were kind of kind of generic new wave. I mean, but they are arty and weird too. But
I know in one interview I saw or listened to with Rozz, he called them like Fleetwood Mac wannabe or something.
They had some weird element. Their
No
stuff,
love lost.
I like
No.
Fleetwood Mac.
I like Fleetwood
I do
Mac
too.
too.
Me too.
but their stuff's not great. I mean, it's there's some occasionally interesting moments to it, but it's just not awesome. So, I mean, I think they are lucky to get invited to join Christian Death.
I can see that.
Yeah.
So anyway, Rozz's band fell apart. They're touring with Pompeii 99. Pompeii 99 becomes Christian Death with Rozz singing. But it sounded like to me, in the interviews that I read, that Rozz did not want to continue using the name Christian Death for that project. It sounded like he wanted to use the previous name he had, Dacus Carota. Is that? I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but
I think you're. I think
Close
you're
enough.
close enough.
yeah.
They're going on tour in Europe because the only Theater of Pain just got released in France, and I think the French label was paying for it. But Pompeii 99 was going with them, but since Christian Death just broke up, they're going to play like Rozz is going to sing. I think he was going to sing also for the Pompeii 99 shows, maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know if that's true or not, but it's pretty much be the same band playing as two different bands. But I believe from interviews I've read that the record label thought it would just be better. Like, hey,
That's what I read, was the record label intervened somewhat. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like Christian Death had the bigger name because essentially Rozz joined Pompeii 99.
Yeah, well, I mean, Christian Death
But-
was on Frontier Records in the U.S. and then like had their stuff being in over in Europe a little, at least in France. But Pompeii 99 was just like sort of self-released stuff on Valor's own label. I think
Yeah.
Nostradamus Records. But
So that was the origins, and they created 2 albums, Catastrophe Ballet and Ashes. And I'm going to play a sample of a song off of each of those albums. Catastrophe Ballet I have lined up as Evening Falls, and from Ashes I have The Luxury of Tears. So let's do this.
Here we are now, in this god-awful state, where there's nothing to say. Let's lose ourselves in a picture, dressed for the occasion, then lock it away. Lock it away. Keep asking questions, there's bound to be answers. If anyone's left here to answer at all. They said we were too weak. You said we were too strong. I said, I wish you were here. As evening falls around us, we could choose words like light. As evening falls around us, we could choose words like light. As evening falls around us, we could choose words like words spread too quickly, like someone's reflection in somebody's eyes. So save your kisses for some other Sunday. I'm cold, the air's getting thin. Is this the distance that we've always hoped for? Or is this our cue? We go on dancing until our hands fall through the mirror on the wall. I say, evening falls around us, we could make ourselves blind. As evening falls around us, we could make ourselves blind. Oh, as evening falls around us, we could make ourselves blind. In a phallic stone tower we rise and fly, or standing deep in water. Skin is smooth and damp every time he crosses them. And there are bones in bed with that child, the figure behind the glass and me in his mouth. The man has come and gone, aroused my photographic memory. Often signs in his raw hands were slammed in his face, slammed in his face. Like fire under horses, sex, smiling eyes, project ray. Lays against his teeth, lays against his teeth. Lays against his teeth, against his teeth. The luxury of tears burn my fingers, spinning devils of snow. The luxury of tears burn my fingers, spinning devils of snow. The luxury of tears burn my fingers, spinning devils of snow. The luxury of tears burn my fingers, spinning devils of snow. Oh, devils must know. The luxury of tears. Changed his shape, he raised his eyes masked with grief. Out his arms, pulled open the door. A moist, sour charm. Down the silver screen, down the silver screen. Ushering the figures through his yawning neck. I undressed in his throat, a passion for dust was slapped in his face. Down by the wings, a rose from my wrist, go back up the stairs, and laughed in his face, 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 laughed in his face. The luxury of tears burn my fingers, spinning devils in snow. The luxury of tears burn my fingers, spinning devils in snow. The luxury of tears burn my fingers, spinning devils in snow. The luxury of tears burn my fingers, spinning devils in snow.
All right. What was that?
That previous song was "Luxury of Tears" from Christian Death with on the album Ashes, and both of those songs, that was Rozz on vocals on both, but Valor was
Jatan also.
and Jatan, yes, and that is something as well. Like to me, I like all the Christian Death eras for the most part up until Jatan left, and then it starts to get patchy. But but as long as David Glass was in it, I mean that's the thing, is there were a lot of other artists behind the music besides just Rozz and Valor. I think.
I mean, there's a whole family tree coming out of Christian Death. You know, you have Barry Galvin, who went on to form Mephisto Walls. You have William Faith, who went on to Faith in the Muse, and who was also in Mephisto Walls. You just have a lot of people. James Beam, Nick the Bastard, though I don't know he ever did anything else, but he was credited as Nick the Bastard.
Right.
You just have a lot of excellent guitarist, bassists that were involved.
We are actually including a song from Mephisto Waltz later, in Deep Cuts and Super Heroines and Shadow Project.
Me and Randy actually got to see Mephisto Waltz in Chicago in '94, and he actually got to go backstage and hang out with Gary and the singer.
Barry Galvin.
Or,
Yeah.
Barry, my bad, sorry.
Barry.
Barry Galvin, not Gary.
Barry.
You know.
They have an amazing family tree, in my opinion. And each era has their fingerprints of who was on it. I really couldn't find much information on James Beam or Nick the Bastard. I tried to look up some stuff, and it's like there was nothing to be found. I know that members of the original Christian Death continued on playing, at least live, with Rick Agnew and James McGearty and George Ballinger.
Yeah.
And Eva O did vocals on CD 1334 is the name of that project.
Okay.
So at this point, though, after Catastrophe Ballet and Ashes, Rozz abruptly leaves the band.
Why?
We are going to actually, I have a clip from an interview with Rozz where he kind of gives his side of the story a little bit. I've also got later we'll have a little clip from Jatan Damone where she gives a little bit of the story too. And then I do have another little clip with Valor. So I'm trying to get all the different perspectives, because it seems like to me that people hate Valor. And
a lot of people do.
And I feel that it's very unjust. I mean, I don't know on a personal level. Like, I know, like Barry Galvin, he left with some maybe bad blood, with Valor as well when he left Christian Death. But I don't know any of them personally, so it's not about their personalities to me. It's about them as an artist. And as an artist, I think Valor did a lot of great work. And
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, did he paint, or did he like...
So I thought Rozz was amazing, and I thought Valor was just as amazing in a different way. I like the era with both of them together the best personally. I think Catastrophe Ballet was a masterpiece. But
Agreed.
I do think that Valor did some amazing songs after Rozz left. And legally, what I read, it sounds like when they first formed the band, they all signed a contract. Now, I'm talking about the second version. Incarnation, yes. The first incarnation broke up, and it was like whatever. The second incarnation with Jatan and David Glass and Valor and Rozz, they signed a contract together, and the contract stated, if you leave the band, you give up your rights to all of it. And so when Rozz left, he gave up all of his rights to that name. Now, they did agree to change the name, and then it came out initially as the Sin and Sacrifice, I think.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think on the actual record, like on the Believers of the Impure is the 12-inch, but I think it says like the Sin and Sacrifice of Christian Death on it.
Right.
The 12-inch.
And the Christian Death part was not supposed to be on there, according to their agreement with Rozz. So if you're speaking, it sounded like there was a lot of pressure from the record label to keep the name Christian Death, and from promoters. And this is just what I'm gathering from interviews I've listened to with Jatan and with Rozz and Valor.
Well, it makes sense. I mean,
right, they didn't want to lose that name, and so they didn't acknowledge the Sin and the Sacrifice or whatever. So they still kind of promoted them as Christian Death, and it's just like, from a business perspective, what are you going to do?
and by that time, I mean, it was like mid-'80s. Like Rozz could have been like out of the country. They could have like zero.
Well, they were in Europe,
right?
I mean, they were recording in England, and
he was probably like in LA or California.
he left.
Somewhere. Yeah, so.
Yeah, he left. And
So-
from what Jatan stated,
So they could have been like, well, he might even know these things even come out.
well, he left them abruptly.
Yeah.
And Jatan acted like that when he left, that a lot of the audience didn't even know the they just thought Valor was Rozz.
I thought they were in that one country where everybody had to stay in their car. You know, incarnation.
It's a tumbleweed. Wow. Yeah.
But
So
so my view is though, like, what do you expect somebody that looks as wild and eccentric as Valor or Rozz to do? That you're going to go get a day job? You know, it's like from a business perspective, I'm sure Valor was just like, I got to eat, and if I change my name, nobody's going to know who the fuck I am, and so he
That's
just
true.
continued on.
Right.
was there lawsuits involved with that afterwards?
Not in the 80s, I don't think.
Yeah.
There was some trouble, possibly, maybe with Rozz on Cleopatra. I don't know.
Yeah, but that probably wouldn't have been like the Iron Mask came out, which was probably around 92 or so.
Okay.
Yeah, Rozz just kind of did a take back, you know, like it was his name, and ethically speaking, possibly they should have changed the name. But from a business perspective, you know,
Yeah. Da, 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 da.
I believe,
what are you gonna
I
do?
believe in '89, like Rozz did like a sort of a reunion show with Christian Death at like the
He
original
did.
Only Theater Pain members.
Yeah, he did. Yes,
of
they
course,
did. They
then-
did.
Of course, then Shadow Project came out like sort of late '80s. Like I think the first LP is '91. So I'm sure Cleopatra like might have sort of brought him in, just like, hey, but like as a legal to get around it legally, I'm not sure if like the Iron Mask, it might just say Christian Death on it, but some of the later ones say Christian Death featuring Rozz Williams. Is how it,
So I'm going to play a little 2-minute clip, actually, of Rozz's. It's from an interview from like 1992, where he was asked why he left Christian Death, and I'm going to play a little 2-minute clip of that interview.
Bring it.
What happened between the two of you? Would you like to talk about that?
Seems like he's been saying quite a lot in the press lately. I mean, the simplest explanation and getting over my, frustration for him doing it, because, it's like, I've got this one fucking life. I don't care what he does.
You're right. Right.
But, my main problem with it is that when, I decided that I didn't want to carry on with them in '85, and, we all sat down, had a meeting, and I was like, I love all of you guys, and I love what we've done, but I need to go off and do something different now, just for my own well-being.
Sure. Explore different avenues.
And I was like, and we talked about it and stuff, and Valor was like, oh, okay, well, we'll call it The Sin and Sacrifice will be the name of this band then. I was like, okay, that's fine, that's fine, but then, of course, that became The Sin and Sacrifice sacrifice of Christian death,
Right.
which then became just Christian death.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that was one of the things. It's like, I mean, you know, go on and play whatever you like, you know, especially music that you've written yourselves and stuff. Of course, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, no, you can't do music that you wrote that we were doing together, you know. It's like, hey, that's your music. Do whatever you want with it. But the name Christian Death was mine.
And you wanted to...
And when he took it over, it pretty much pissed me off. And then also hearing that he was doing songs from Only Theater of Pain, which, excuse me, like 2 years before I even knew Valor.
Yeah.
That's, you know, that still gets on me to an extent, especially because of a lot of the press that I hear coming from his side of like, you know, oh, well, Rozz Williams is destroying the name of Christian Death. And, you know, to me, I'm like, even if I am,
it's your yeah.
No, it's my name. I can do what the fuck I want to.
Right.
You know, you're not the man to make those decisions.
Right.
And you should have just stayed in your sin and sacrifice or your Pompeii 99.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, so that was Rozz's version, and it's obviously quite valid, coming straight from Rozz. I think everybody loves Rozz. Does anybody not like Rozz? Randy, Ultimate Christian Death?
No, I like Rozz.
Yeah, I think
I'm more. I will admit I'm more. I prefer the Valor stuff more. I think it was, especially when Rozz came back in the later years. I know we're only discussing up until about 90, but I think when he came back in the 90s with Christian Death featuring Rozz Williams, I think a lot of that was just a little bit too.
I agree.
Artsy spoken word kind of stuff, and I really think that part of it brought down his legacy. You know, he had really not much, but a good run. Not really productive, but in the 80s. He had a good run, but bringing that stuff into the mix and you take it in, it just takes down the entire persona.
I don't agree that it hurt his legacy at all. I think people practically deify Rozz, especially since he is no longer with us.
A lot of people like Path of Sorrows. I mean, it's like I don't think it's like a awesome masterpiece, but I mean, it's a couple okay songs on it.
Yeah.
But
I love Rozz. I mean, but I do agree. Like after the break, I like what Valor did musically more than what Rozz did at least until the mid '90s, probably. Like I don't like the metal influence.
Right, I agree with you. The Sexy Death God was it was hit and miss.
Yeah,
it really was. But the earlier stuff, like the Wind Kiss Pictures,
I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The Scriptures,
love it. Yeah.
And you know,
Atrocities,
Sex, Drugs, and Jesus Christ, Atrocities, All the Love, All the Hate. While it was a little bit heavier, it wasn't metalish.
Right. And that's even like on was it Prophecies, like mid '90s too, though. I'm thinking it's like '95 or '96, but.
Got Discogs.
There's a couple songs on there that I think are pretty strong and sound like Christian Death, and then the rest of it is just kind of like noisy nothing to me. I mean, I lost interest in them about there.
Yeah, Prophecies actually was 96.
96, okay. Yeah, that's...
But yeah, I agree with you on Prophecies. The song Without off of Prophecies was a great intro.
I like it.
But a lot of the other stuff is, so I think Washing Machine was on that one, wasn't it?
I've only listened to it once.
Yeah.
But, you know, some of it ranged from, like I said, Without was just a fantastic song. Ranged from that to just some mediocre stuff to some really cringeworthy, like, ugh, I can't believe you're
Yeah, it started
that.
to feel like filler. You know, I think Valor always had a little of that. Like, even on Ashes, even though I love Ashes, there's some parts with the baby crying and stuff that it goes so far out that it's just like, it becomes annoying almost. But the songs are good.
Atrocities is solid all the way through, though.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I know, like, Barry claims he wrote several of those songs off that from who left after that. But
right. Yeah, he did write Tales of Innocence, which I am going to play.
And like Silent
later.
Thunder and...
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say Silent Thunder.
I really like that song. It's a good song. Why were they saying that he was tarnishing the name? I guess the people that were against him. Do you know? Rozz. He said that in that clip.
He did.
I guess because the Cleopatra era of Rozz's Christian Death felt weak to me. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, and that's what they're talking about, like later stuff. More
Yeah,
or less.
Christian Death featuring Rozz.
It was
Gotcha.
It was pretty
That
much
was
Shadow
built.
Project, just like doing like I was do some other songs. Pretty much, it's pretty much the same members. I think Paris was in it. Eva O was in it.
But me and Matt have talked about this before. That there was a remix of "I Wish You Were Dead" with Eva O and
Birmingham 6, I think, did it. The band from
and it was kind of
Denmark.
like a dancey. I thought it was really good. It was like on one of those goth
I think
box
it's on
things.
Gothic. I think it's on the. I don't know if it's on the Jungle Records version, like the because there's two different versions. The European one's on Jungle Records, but the American version has some slightly different track listings, which actually has a Valor, exclusive Valor track on it that's only on that compilation. But then I think that one's on the European Jungle release, but the American version has that dance remix. So it was Birmingham 6, the band that did it.
Yeah, I like that. What were you gonna say, Kim?
I was just saying that it wasn't staying true to the beginning of Christian Death, putting.
Oh
you know,
yeah,
and that's why he said it was tarnishing.
just kind of going off in a different direction.
Going from other projects, putting the name on, and it was tarnishing what was the original Christian Death.
But Rozz was the original Christian
But
Death.
that's what he was saying.
But this is the third incarnation.
Right.
So we can all agree
Exactly,
that
but-
Rozz hates Valor. I mean,
I don't think
from,
so. I don't
from
think
that interview,
Yeah.
he was saying that it was taking all the other projects and putting the Christian Death name on it when it wasn't actually true to the original project. So our band,
Which I guess he's guilty of doing that himself, which I'm sure he probably needed money, so.
right?
But, and probably got the record labels, hey, you want to be Christian Death again?
Yeah. I'm going to play a clip from a Valor perspective, too. And the record labels, I think, did have a major impact on. I mean, you got to consider, like, you're in an underground music scene and you're trying to make a living. I think I'm repeating myself on that business part, but it's like, you know, if you change your name, you give up all that you've done before. That name recognition, and so
Yeah, having to find new followers and such.
Right.
I've also heard Rozz bitch several times in interviews saying that, oh, these people better not fucking ask me to play Romeo's Distress again. so I'm sure, like, you know, the whole idea of being Christian Death probably wasn't like that awesome to him.
No.
You know?
Well, I mean, I think he went back and forth.
Yeah.
I think he wanted control of that name.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand.
But it was his name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, he could have heard some of the Valor albums like, this shit sucks.
Yeah, he might have.
And
yeah.
like, I'm taking it back.
Right. Well, so for now, then, I'm going to play a couple of Valor songs without Rozz that I think are really strong. One was, this is like right after the breakup with Christian Death, Valor era called Believers of the Unpure, which was their first single post breakup.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then I also have following up Sick of Love, Song of Solomon, which was also called Song of Songs on Scriptures.
Yeah.
And then we'll be back, and then we'll listen to a clip of Valor explaining his point of view. Let's ride.
All right.
So there we have a couple of samples of Valor without Rozz.
Some beautiful stuff.
Yeah, I like it. That Sick of Love, Song of Solomon, or Song of Songs, as it probably was originally on Scriptures.
Well, I think
it's the same song, basically. That version was off Jesus Points to Bone at You, though, the later.
Yeah, which was like the singles collection.
Yeah, pretty much singles collections. So I thought it was a great song. Like I said,
I like it. Yeah,
I like it too.
Up until Jatan left, I thought thought they were still making great work.
Atrocities is still my favorite. No, I mean,
even more than the.
Well, not as much as Catastrophe Ballet.
I think Catastrophe Ballet is my peak.
I like Atrocities better than Ashes.
I like Atrocities better than Ashes too.
But still, like, I mean, Only Theater of Pain. It doesn't compare to Only Theater of Pain, but
yeah,
agreed with that.
But still, Atrocities is an awesome album.
I think everybody loves Only Theater of Pain.
And When Kiss Pictures has some moments. It's not. I mean, I know it was probably.
Me too.
It's kind of more experimental, but there's some awesome tracks on it too. Scriptures is hit or miss.
Yeah, it is. And I think probably post Atrocities, it became very hit or miss. But I still liked it until the 90s, and then it really got more spotty. I feel like the 90s, after Jatan left, it really just became Valor solo project, and it wasn't as interesting to me.
If we're going to talk 90s, I still do like the Rozz Williams Christian Death featuring Rozz Williams. I enjoy that much more than the Valor stuff coming in the 90s overall. It's pretty much shadow project.
But I like the Valor 80s stuff better than I do anything that Rozz did.
Duke it out.
I love Rozz.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's not about them personally. They were both great artists, and shit happens. But I know a lot of people hate Valor. I'm just not sure it's justifiable to me. I mean, the people that knew him, if he was a dick to them, like Barry Galvin, if he hates Valor, I can understand that because they knew each other.
Right.
But for like the fans at Wave Gothic Treffen to go over and harass and heckle Valor, like when they're like 25 years old and they fucking weren't even alive when any of this happened, it's like. I mean,
it seems to me a lot of it is different stylistically. I mean, Valor kind of took it on a different sort of trajectory.
I don't think so at first, but I think so very much later.
So,
but I think that's after Jatan left. Like, I think is it her name Maitri?
I know who you're
the bass
about.
player that sings it. Maitri, Ultimate Christian Death fan, Randy.
Yes.
Okay, so she joined in like '92, and I don't that's when I really had started to lose interest in what they were making as much. I mean,
it was Sexy Death God pretty much the first album after like a couple probably 4 or 5 years, I guess.
Insanus was 90.
Yeah. But is there some Raw stuff on that one too? I've heard maybe
there is.
There is
on Insanus.
Yeah, I think there is. I think there was stuff that was like recorded years ago
when it was originally released.
Talking to Mike.
I'm sorry. When it was originally released, there was a Infans Vexiato was the name of the song, and it was by Rozz. And later on a re-release, probably for some kind of legal thing, that same song was same titled song was a different song by Valor.
Weird. Since it came so late. So it was a song that Rozz would have done back before 85?
Yeah, it's about the area. I think Decomposition of Violets was 85, which was a live album.
Well, I know Cleopatra put out that Invocations compilation in the early 90s, which had a couple songs that Rozz did on his own. So I think it was might have been with the guy from Premature Ejaculations. Is his name Eric or... I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but there's a couple songs like Halos and Spectre, This Mirage, which is I think that's only put on a compilation like the Black Bible, but they're all recorded like 85 on pretty much without any of the other members of Christian Death, but they are later released as Christian Death songs, so it's possible it could have been, something in that vein.
Well, right. I am going to play another little interview clip, this time with Valor, and kind of like some of his view on how he feels about it.
have no animosity or hatred, and I would like to think that equally the same is with me and any of the members that we've ever had, that people just have to go their own way. People leave, they change their lives, things happen. Any of the negative things that came up with this band were really because of the industry itself and the people who are trying to exploit us for what we've done, and one particular record company who I'd rather not give credit to. And they actually hired people to deliberately have a smear campaign against me to help promote their product, to help by degrading mine, and they started doing that at the advent of people becoming trolls. They hired a bunch of trolls to be negative trolls, and they put out a lot of false rumors, and I guess it was publicity in one way, but it was very hurtful in another way to me, because I like to make sure that everything that I say is bona fide, and I never say anything negative against anyone. And yet they've paid people to go out there and publicly say things in the press, people with famous profiles around the world that have worked alongside this particular label, have actually, who never even met me, by the way, became part of this whole campaign to just like run me down, because when you've got a record company offering you money, well, make sure that when you go out and you promote what we're doing for you, that you say shit about that guy. They do. And it hurt my feelings a lot, because what happens is that people get caught up on it. The general public gets caught up in all the negativity, and some people thrive on negativity, and some people take it further than they really even thought about why they should. And that's what hurts, because they don't ever research it. They just take hearsay for granted and think that, I just want to shit on that guy, It's like,
okay, so that was Valor. I think that was like maybe 2007, so it was more recent than the Rozz interview, but
a bit more.
His perspective, seems kind of like he's a little hurt by all the hate for Valor.
Where's he from originally?
From my understanding, Valor was born in Australia, and he had kind of maybe a hippie commune type of art commune life or something. I don't know.
So Australia to the West Coast to California.
To California, yeah. And I don't know about the hippie element. I'm just guessing if it was like a artist commune
it was
type
a commune
thing.
Yeah,
it was a commune.
Yeah.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. Well, what he describes in interviews.
Okay.
But I can totally see that. He's very flamboyant. A lot of headgear and gypsy-like, yeah.
Uncommon valor.
Well, he is not liked by a lot of people, though. I've never met the guy, but it just seems like everybody loves Rozz,
and again,
they hate Valor.
But it's sort of back to this sort of deification of some of Rozz, and I think part of that may have to do with the fact that he's not around anymore.
Yeah, but it existed even before that. But I think that is more so now,
and
especially with young people.
Partially due to the fact that Rozz started everything, and so there's maybe people taking issue with that as well.
There is probably rightfully so perspective that he stole it,
and he didn't steal it. I think let's go back here and talk. Pompeii '99, Christian Death breaks up. Rozz essentially joins Pompeii 99. Pompeii 99 becomes Christian Death because they have greater name recognition.
Right.
And so from there on, it's just record labels, and which I think he even mentioned there. Ethically, you could say it would have been better for him.
They kind of had an agreement there, and then,
they had an agreement, but they also had a legal contract.
Them being broke and record labels forcing them into, like you're saying earlier, sin, sacrifice of Christian death, and they were just kind of like, just kind of ignore that part.
Well, I'm going to play a Jatan Damone interview in a little bit, too, and she kind of explains that the promoters didn't accept sin and sacrifice.
Right.
They just kept promoting them as Christian death.
Right, yes, there are definitely, other elements playing a part in the whole thing. You can't just say he stole it from him, because there are definitely other elements.
It was Rozz's name. Nobody's arguing that.
Right. But I think that's.
I just don't think it's theft. I think stealing it is the wrong term.
Honda elements.
But I think that's the attitude of a lot of people who have this really fierce Rozz following.
Right.
You know, that they have that
It's black
attitude
and
of
white
you
thinking.
stole it.
But stylized, they're quite different in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah, I agree with that statement.
And the grit. I mean, Rozz is grit. I mean, to me, and Valor is more perfectionist, I would say, which I appreciate both, but I'm drawn to Rozz.
Nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think Rozz has a prettier voice.
Yeah.
I think Valor's voice is definitely more masculine, and I think
Yeah.
that Rozz's voice is definitely more feminine.
I think it's more emotional.
It's more sensual.
Yeah,
it's
more
more sensual.
and more emotional.
Well, and I do feel like specifically only Theater of Pain. I mean, that album to me strikes a lot of punk notes. I mean, it is something akin
exactly.
to.
Well, that's Rick Agnew. I mean, the Adolescence was his band. He's a punk guitar player.
And it's something akin to like the Birthday Party, Nick Cave's earlier stuff. I mean, it's a bit different. I mean, it's definitely there's a trajectory, I would say, but I mean that particular album I think has a lot of punk elements to me.
Oh, I agree. It's very punk.
Yeah. The I don't give a fuck. I'm just gonna do it. Yeah.
I mean, even the sound of the guitars and the drums. I mean, it has a punk
it is.
sound.
It has.
You know?
I mean, and derivative of post punk.
Right.
Even the vocals.
Many years ago, I was talking to a guy. He was 15 years older than me, but he was working college radio in the early 80s when that came out, and he got that record, and he was like, we had never heard anything at all anywhere close to this record. It was like the most mind-blowing thing at that time when they got it.
Yeah,
totally.
I was listening to or reading, I can't remember, an interview about. I think it was the one with Jatan Damone because Rick Agnew's in it too. I'm only taking a clip out of that with Jatan, but the interview with Jatan also has Rick Agnew in it. But I think they were saying something like when they started, it was during the punk era, and I mean obviously Rick Agnew was a guitar player for the Adolescents, and members of Christian Death wanted to do something different than what punk was, which was more of the short hair and shaved hair, and they wanted the long hair and slower songs, and they went more dark theme. They basically said that it was an autobiographical album for Rozz.
Ford Tempo.
And he was young. I mean, I think he was only 16 when they started.
Well, I've seen him in an interview saying he wasn't proud of those lyrics later on.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, his parents were very religious too, and I think that they did not like that album. I think they mentioned some of that in that interview too. But the band initially was named, had nothing to do with religion at all. It was named as a kind of joke on Christian Dior. They kind of explained that in the interview too. But anyway, I'm going to play another Valor song. The Loving Face. It's a beautiful song. And we'll be back.
They say that you were born deaf, that in your soul never meant to know evil words and past your innocent years. But I know that you were a demon, hoping to torture me to my screams loud enough for you to hear. Your face, your face, your face, your face, your face, guilty of filth. I share in your pleasure, guilty of filth. No, I shall refuse your bed. Age of innocence has abandoned me for a while. All the pain cosmic can compare with the bliss of knowing your murderous smile. Your face, your face. Your face, your face. Your face, your face. Guilty of filth. I share in your pleasure. Guilty of filth.
Okay, so that was Valor with the, Christian Death with the Loving Face, but Valor without Rozz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice.
You know, he had some good musicians. We talked a little bit about some of those, Barry and Nick the Bastard. And the guitar work on some of that stuff was really good with James Beam. I think some of the songs I like best by Valor, James Beam was playing guitar on it.
I think David Glass. I think he left after Scriptures.
He left before Jatan did, for sure. Yeah. I think you are correct. Yeah. So there was another highly artistic, creative member of Christian Death that I'm going to play an interview by, and it was Jatan Damone. And I think she added a lot to it, and I am going to play a track with her doing lead vocals. It wasn't just about Valor and Rozz. There were, like we've said, plenty of other people involved. But I'm going to play an interview with Jatan on her view, and this one's only from like a couple years ago. This was something I grabbed off of YouTube, actually. It's On the Couch with Dr. Strange. It was also with Rick Agnew. I don't have Rick on this one, just for sake of time. But I did grab a couple minutes of Jatan's view on the breakup, and I'm going to play that.
We got together with Rozz, probably 99 did, when he came to our record release party. And Valor and he had a long chat. When Rozz came in, it looked like a silent film star coming in. He was all furs and sunglasses and everything. So that's what happened. They met, and then the original Christian Death started to go different ways. Rozz wanted to have a different band and a different sound, and then
when did you leave? You moved to Europe, right, for a while?
Well, what happened was Christian Death went on a European tour.
What year is
with
this?
Rozz. This is 1984. I was pregnant. I had my son on tour, recorded an album, everything. We toured. The band came back to the U.S. Then in '85, we went back. We went back to, we recorded Catastrophe Ballet and Ashes with Rozz. He quit the band. We went back under a different name band, because he had quit suddenly right when there was a whole tour book. So we went back calling ourselves Sin and Sacrifice, which the promoters were, some of them put down and some of them didn't. And then we were basically over there.
How did the fans receive you?
It was kind of embarrassing, because some of them didn't even know that Valor wasn't Rozz. They didn't know, and it was very odd. It was very odd to work without Rozz.
When he left, you guys were still friends, or was it kind of?
We were friends, but then
not a cool thing to quit before a tour.
No, it wasn't. But I understood. He didn't want the name Christian Death used after he left, but that happened anyway later on. It happened later on. With just the higher administration of the band, I'll put it that way.
But without any originals, right? To continue on?
Without any original members. Yeah,
just
exactly.
the name only.
Yeah. So that continued. I left the band in '89, started my own thing. And then Rozz got back together with me after I left the band.
And you're an artist. And the reason I think that like people like this are artists is because you would still be doing exactly what you're doing, whether anyone saw or listened, or if a million people saw or listened. It's like you have to do it, right? Am I making up something, or is that true?
No, it's totally true.
That's what an artist is.
The numbers don't matter.
Exactly.
You know? They do, but they don't. You know what I mean?
Okay, so that was Jatan Damone and her perspective of her retelling, I should say, of what happened. As you can hear, Rozz left abruptly while they were on tour, which, you know, you can love Rozz. I love Rozz.
Yeah.
And still admit that was pretty lame.
It was lame.
To just say, you know, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
When you're committed to a tour and then leave the other guys there to deal with it.
Sucks.
You said it earlier, he's a flake.
He's an artist.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm an artist. I get that, moody.
Yeah.
He was young. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah.
He was probably only like 22 years old or something, I mean, it's like these were not like, mature adult long, they were young people.
And there were probably a lot of other issues there too.
Oh, I'm sure there were plenty of drugs and
egos,
sex and rock and roll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
22 years old. That's all I know.
Yeah.
So,
Wiener song.
Yeah.
I am going to play a song where Jatan does lead vocals. It was one that Barry Galvin composed.
He claims to
have composed.
On the credits, on the Atrocities album credits, I don't think he's mentioned, but I'm sure that...
Maybe that's why he hates Valor. I mean, Art, if I write a song, I want my goddamn name on it.
So yeah, I'm sure that's a heavy part of it.
Yeah. So I'm going to play that. And
This is an awesome song.
It is an awesome song.
I don't like it.
Yeah. song? Oh, is it that time again?
Toast to Jeton Damone for
please.
holding it all together while these guys fucking like argued over everything or whatever. Who knows?
Seriously. Oh, yep. There's Kim uncorking that fucking tequila bottle.
It's some
Bill with his Polar Pop.
Natural light tonight.
Yeah. Well, I think I actually have a natural light here too, and I might have to. Ooh, that's kind of tasty.
I don't have any more to open.
You've been drinking Founders IPA, so I don't think you want to switch to this adjunct crap beer that I like.
No.
I don't see any ice.
You can have one.
Where's the ice?
No ice for
No
natural
ice,
light.
no
I'm
ice.
weird about that.
Yeah.
I have more beers, but I shouldn't drink any.
What beers are appropriate for ice for you?
I like Busch Light or Bud Light with ice and lemon. But like Miller Lite does not mix well with that lemon. It's weird. Now I like Miller Lite fine.
What about D-Light?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Groove is in the heart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't care about that at all.
It's a fun track.
Slide whistle with ice?
Yes.
No. No.
Nah.
Good call, Bill. Yeah. I do like
no fun music for me.
Sheesh.
Motuvius does
I'm just
not
kidding.
dance.
You know I love Hall & Oates, right?
I know you do.
Okay.
Only for breakfast.
Right.
Oh, it's Quaker Oats, my bad.
Oh.
So you had some feelings about Rozz
Yes.
versus Valor.
Yeah.
Who has better hair?
Rozz.
Rozz.
Now, I mean, Valor had beautiful curly locks, but like he even talks
Wafting in the
about it in
wind.
one of his songs. But
The appeal of Rozz to me is the kind of let it flow, don't give a fuck kind of attitude. Less perfectionist, it would
Less
appear.
polished.
Less polished, on the fly. And
Agreed.
And ironically, as more of a perfectionist myself, that opposite is kind of attractive in the sense of art. Just to
Alluring.
let it flow.
Yeah, sure.
And so, but yet, artistically, I can probably identify with Valor more, as far as trying to be as good as I can be. And you can hear that. You can hear the difference between that and Rozz and Valor. So I feel a little guilty when I say that I like Rozz better.
Lyrically, I believe, Rozz is very surrealistic.
Yeah.
And Valor's more realistic.
Right.
And normally I'm more realistic in everyday life, but
Yeah.
I'm attracted more to the surrealistic as far as like movies
Yeah,
and cinema and music.
Exactly.
lyrically,
yeah.
I think I do
Yeah.
like Rozz more.
But as an outlet, not on a daily basis.
But I actually love Valor's guitar playing, and like a lot of the post Rozz era, like I love the guitar work on Catastrophe Ballet,
Right.
and that was him playing guitar. Whereas like later, like what we just heard with Jeton Damone there, that was Barry Galvin, Barry.
Yeah.
And I love that guitar. He's great.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
It's almost sort of Cocktail Twins meets Death
Yeah,
Rock.
it's great. I mean,
Early Cocktail Twins.
I love it. I mean, artistically, I mean,
totally.
I don't have anything bad to say about any of these people artistically. I mean,
No.
I feel sometimes, I don't know why, but I feel slightly defensive when I hear a young person talk about how much they hate Valor.
Right.
And I'm like, do you even know?
Do you know?
But
I did go see Christian Death a few months ago, and they didn't play for some reason, so I kind of hate them.
I was there. I was there. You were there, Matt.
Yes.
Yeah.
The people who I know who actually went, Valor was on the tour bus or whatever. The people I knew who actually went and met him said he was
Right.
fucking awesome. They take back everything they ever said about him.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I mean, I personally didn't meet him, but
Yeah.
What happened?
I didn't meet him.
They had some technical difficulties.
yeah, so they didn't play. But
And I went home, and one of the next few nights I got really drunk and was complaining loudly, fuck Christian Death, fuck them,
Yeah.
fuck Valor.
It was disappointing.
And so my youngest child got on Facebook and contacted them, and they sent me a signed postcard.
Aw.
well, that's
awesome.
cool.
That's super sweet.
Nice.
They gave that to me for Christmas.
Aw.
yeah, but there was a guy down from Cincinnati. He actually had some like the original vinyls. Like, I remember him having like one of the pressings of Catastrophe Ballet, but he said Valor signed that for him. It was like cool as fuck. So
Matt, did you just say vinyls?
Mm-hmm. No, I mean the sleeves. He didn't sign. He didn't write on the fucking record.
Vinyl.
He's saying vinyl, not vinyls. He's talking grammar.
Yeah.
Matt's from Eastern Kentucky. Sorrow Vomit is from Eastern Kentucky, man.
Now I feel like a total asshole.
Yeah.
I guess appropriately so.
What city are you from? What town?
Outside of Ashland.
Yeah, but it has. What was it?
Flatwoods, Russell.
Yeah.
The same.
Yeah.
Russellville? Is that Russell County?
No.
Okay.
Flatwoods.
Flatwoods.
Yeah.
He's from the Flatwoods.
Hometown of Billy Ray Cyrus.
Ah.
So we are getting up to the deep cuts.
Ooh.
And it's side projects, or not really side projects.
Splinter projects.
It's all members who have had some involvement in Christian death over the years.
Right.
We're starting with Mephisto Waltz.
Correct.
Track Eternal Deep. They actually redid this song. This is the original version from 1980. I think, or 86, I believe, is when the.
So it's right after he left.
Yeah, this is Barry, what's his
Galvin.
Galvin.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other guy was named John Schumann, I believe.
Johann.
Is that right?
Johann Schumann.
Oh, okay. And
they were both in Christian Death.
Yeah, they're like Atrocities era.
Well, initially, what I read, Barry Galvin joined when Rozz was still a member. Rozz left, and then Barry was the bass player. And when Valor became the singer, Barry became the guitar player, and Johann became the bass player. Mm-hmm. So when they left, that's the Mephisto Waltz.
But this is off their first 12-inch that came out in '86. Right afterwards. Which they were living in Germany at the time. They have a German singer named Jorg on this version. I mean, most people, when they think Mephisto Waltz, they think of the female singer. I think it was Christiana. Yeah.
I like that era the best.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie.
But and that shit's awesome, but I still wanted to pick a song right after.
Right after.
This stuff's really raw.
It's still good.
And it sounds very Atrocities era Christian Death still.
Right.
They actually put out a CD last year that called Rarities, which is all like sort of demos from like late 80s, and they actually have some of their own renditions of some of the songs off like Silent Thunder and Tales of Innocence that were recorded and I think Between Youth they were actually recorded, but that some of the songs that Barry claims to have wrote that were like sort of the Mephisto Waltz versions recorded in the late 80s.
Written. I'm just being a grammar
Is it a poking
bastard.
I think it might be. Yeah.
Huh?
Vinyls.
So right after that we have superheroines.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about Eva O much, but she was involved with Christian Death at different periods. It sounded like.
Yeah, I think
but
she might have
not
done some
really
like
heavily.
sort of. I think on the Death Wish EP she might have some like very.
I think she even was like way back, like in the pre. Rick Agnew. I don't know. Like she was involved. They knew each other way back. It seemed like.
I'm thinking that I'm not 100% positive. Maybe on some of the tracks off the Death Wish EP, she might have been claimed for backing vocals. They can barely hear.
Yeah.
But they did 2 records, like 2 LPs, in I guess like '83, '84, and this song actually wasn't. I think this song was actually recorded in '85, but it was never released until like '93 or so when Cleopatra did like that Love and Hate compilation.
And Superheroines was on Hell Comes to Your House, which was where I first was introduced to Christian Death with Dogs. That came out in I think 1982. But
and one of the members actually
she was married to Rozz as well.
Jill Emery. She was actually in the Courtney Love's Hole.
That's right.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't realize that.
Was she the bass player?
Jill? Yeah.
I think so.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there was only one other girl. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought so. Yeah.
Cool. This song actually is a pretty awesome song, but it never came out on vinyl originally.
I met her at Lollapalooza actually, in like '94, randomly.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I just figured I need to put in a Shadow Project song.
I agree. Yeah, you need one.
This is off their first LP. What song did I pick?
Under Your Wing.
Yeah.
No Demonics?
No. Oh, actually, Demonics had like it was Jatan and I
Mark
think
X.
It was one of the guys from the Belgium EBM band Split Second, I believe.
Oh yeah, sure, okay, okay.
So they think they only did one album, and then they had like a remix album after that.
I actually saw Shadow Project live in, I think, like 1993 in Chicago. I actually saw Jatan Damone in Sarasota when I was in art school in like 98 or 99. Her band, the place got raided, and her band got put in, like, arrested for like a small amount of marijuana or something pathetic. And the reason why was because around town, and we're talking about how times have changed earlier off tape, but the flyers around town said Jatan Damone, form of Christian death.
Yeah.
And the opening band was called Enemy of God. And so it was like all the Christians had to fucking like call the cops or something. So the cops raid the place, I guess, they come and like arrest her band for nothing. And then the opening band played her songs for her so she could still do her show, which was pretty amazing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. But it's just persecuted by Christianity.
Fuck that.
Yes.
Those underdogs.
Yeah, right. Sons of bitches.
I've never heard of such a thing.
Never.
But anyway, deep cuts.
Deep Cuts with Sorrow Vomit.
to make a fool, laughing at us. But it's really them. They try hiding their lies and then apologize. Well, who is who? Who are they fooling? We've seen this before. How can you be fooled when the joke wasn't done? How can you be fooled when the joke wasn't done? Clown smile with the mask still on, deceiving your eyes with the magic face. Clown smile with the mask still on, deceiving your eyes with the magic face. How can you be fooled when the joke wasn't done? How can you be fooled when the joke wasn't done? Clown smile with the mask still on, deceiving your eyes with the magic paint. Clown smile with the mask still on, deceiving your eyes with the magic paint. What is real and what is fake? Who is right? Is this just a game? Do you need an answer for this question that wasn't done? How can you fool when the joke wasn't done? How can you be fooled when the joke wasn't done? Clown smile with the mask still on, deceiving your eyes with the magic paint. Clown smile with the mask still on, deceiving your eyes with the magic paint. Clown smile with the mask still on, deceiving your eyes with the magic paint. Clown smile with the mask still on, deceiving your eyes with the magic paint.
Just as so you will reach the top and then you'll drop. That boat keeps you hanging in the air. You will see you never touch reality, never touch reality. People don't fight your mind, keep their face and their back and their back is strong. Seeing in revenge is the future to the ones who done the wrong. You better keep your eyes peeled. He never hears. I'll be around, hammer and nail. Kiss my head until you're filled. Time to now, time to go back till it's a fix. Wow, let's peace. Take me, please. Please take me. Under shade to our black heart. Watching night to die, watching night, a million deaths, a million breaths, to kill a million dreams in galaxies in ecstasy. You worship God, you worship the devil. Fuck Jesus and Satan, don't you know? You're living knowledgeable, bring it along. Bring it about, never touch reality, never touch reality. And then you
Deep cuts.
Deep.
Side project. Well, not side
They're not
projects.
deep or side projects.
Right.
So I'm thinking that the best side thing to come out of this, the members, was that Eminem guy. Yeah.
Oh no.
Give us a reminder of those tracks again.
There's Eternal Deep at Mephisto Waltz, like the original, not the '90s version with the Christiana.
Yeah, this was the direct, like right after Christian Death.
Yeah.
So it's Barry Galvin and Johann or whatever his name was.
And Jorg is like a German guy singing. He was only on like the early stuff.
Well, after Barry Galvin moved back to the United States, the other guys, like from what I understand, Johann didn't come with
this
him, so
12-inch is only released on Italian label, which also did one of my favorite Italian bands, Weimar Gesang, which is like one of the best code wave minimal synth bands ever.
Yep.
But they also did some of the early. I think they did the Winkus Pictures maybe 12-inch, and they also did the Mephisto Waltz 12-inch.
Okay.
Then we had Super Heroines after that, and then Shadow Project, which is Rozz and Eva's.
Yeah, it's
band 90s, like post-Christian Death, sort of.
Yep.
Fucking deep.
Yeah. William Faith was in that.
Mm-hmm.
He was also in Mephisto Waltz, I guess.
He was in Wreckage also. I mean,
yeah. So a lot of good people surrounding, involved directly or indirectly with Christian Death. Some with Valor, some with Rozz, some with both.
What's the general consensus here? I mean, who wins?
There's no winner for me. I think they're both great. I love Rozz, and I still think Valor did great work after Rozz left.
I think they should have both retired probably around 89.
Yeah.
Now that I understand and probably agree with. Like Jatan said in her interview, she left in '89, and I think that's about for me when I am going to play. We're going to end this show with one of the songs off of Insanus. I can't pronounce it; it's in Latin, but it came out in 1990. But that was about it for me with Christian Death. Like what happened after that, I just lost interest somewhere.
Ultimate Christian Death fan Randy, do you have any input as to who wins this debate?
Who wins?
The fans.
Yeah. The people who spend the money.
I feel like Valor maybe was the more prolific artist somehow.
Well, because maybe he had more albums under his belt as a whole for Christian.
Right.
I mean, if you look at the actual body of work, correct?
I mean,
Rozz was sexier.
If Rozz was still alive and recording albums, they'd probably be pretty embarrassing by now too.
Right.
Now, weren't you saying that there was like a festival coming up where they booked a lot of these separate
It's
bands?
Wave Gothic Treffen.
What's
Dude,
that?
Yeah,
you can't be Gothic Bastard and not know Wave Gothic Treffen.
But that's what
Tell
makes
me
him a
you know
bastard.
Wave Gothic Treffen.
I don't know.
You don't know where that is? What?
It is
Leipzig.
It's the Woodstock of fucking goth.
Yeah, it's the biggest.
Oh yeah,
festival
but I'm
in the
saying like,
land.
didn't they like get a bunch of the bands on that festival
Yeah.
that don't like each other?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's in Germany. It's in Leipzig, Germany.
But there's about 200 bands, so the chances the chances of them actually
I see
meeting
what
each
you're
other.
saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
There you go. I'd go, but I don't know how to speak Spanish.
Oh Lord.
So consensus, if I had to pick, though, I like more of the work. If you're speaking exclusively Christian Death, I like more of the songs with Rozz singing than I do with Valor singing.
Can we take a vote?
But I like...
When I listen at home, I'm more likely to Rozz.
Okay, let's take a vote.
Agreed.
There's 6 people here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Rozz.
Rozz.
Raise your hand. Rozz.
Yeah, I
so-
mean, I've got to... I mean, if I'm down to the wire,
How many-
I like them both.
4 raised
but-
hands here. 5 raised hands.
Yeah.
Oh.
Randy, what about you?
I gotta go with Valor.
Okay. All right.
Okay, we win.
I'm a Valor sympathizer big time.
Okay.
And I like a lot of Valor's work. We were talking about how I think Atrocities gives Catastrophe Ballet a run for its money.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great album.
Awesome album.
Yep. And I don't know. I mean, I think Valor's done a lot of great work. And,
Yes.
I think that for me, they were best during that period together. But
I agree with that too. Yeah.
And with Only Theater of Pain, Rozz really did have a lot of youth on his side. I mean, you're young and on fire and hungry for it.
And he didn't care.
It was amazing and it's great. It's a tough one. We're going to do more of these Bad Bloods and, Sisters of Mercy, Bauhaus, maybe the Gene Loves Jezebel twins, the Aston twins.
Oh, Lord. Oh, no.
There's plenty of bad breakups.
Hagar versus Roth.
I don't know, but, these people are all artists, and I got love
Sandwich
for artists, man. And some artists are not. It's well known that a lot of artists are not easy people to deal with.
Really?
Oh, I know. I go into Subway all the time.
Yeah, I'm with you, Kim.
They don't give me enough fucking
know.
olives.
Really? Yeah.
Some shots. I don't know.
Randy,
In memory
any
of
words
Rozz.
for our final segment?
Cantaloupe.
All right. I like that.
That's a word.
Yeah.
That works.
So we are going to end then with a Valor song from 1990, Malice Amor, off of the album Insanus something. Insanus Ultio Proditio. I don't speak Latin, even though my name is Motuvius Rex. Insanus Ultio Prodicio Misericordia.
Nice work.
I just say Insanus. That's what I've always called it. Insanus.
My eyes recognize it, but I don't actually try to pronounce it.
I mean, Malice Amor is like, what is that, like hate love or something? Malice. I know Amor is love. Anyway, we're ending this stuff with that. And I think it was still when, this is post-Gitan, and I think Valor was still doing some interesting songs. And he still makes some interesting music. It's just with the metal influence, I kind of just lost interest more. Yeah. Thank you all for listening. Happy World Goth Day, even though by the time this comes out, it won't be Goth Day anymore.
But, it's it's appropriate.
Oh, yes. Fearing
Yeah.
live at Art Sanctuary, June 10th, with opening Scary Black first show, debut live show.
Yes.
It's going to be fucking amazing.
Yes.
You want to talk about building things for the Gothic future. Or the post-punk future.
Happy post-punk
Scary
day.
Black's got some great stuff, and you do not want to miss Fearing from Oakland, California, playing here.
We don't.
No way.
Yes.
Awesome.
On Funeral Party Records.
Beautiful.
So, we bid you adieu, and
so long, farewell.
Radio Arcane.